Just do something to tell you who I am, you know?
Hey, what's up, Superman fans? This is going to be the first episode officially of a new show that I've been brainstorming for a while. And before we get into the actual meat of what the show will be, I thought I'd start off with a review for a great box set that came out recently that Warner Bros. Home Entertainment was nice enough to send to me. So, as always, I like to pay it forward. So, here in a second, I'm going to give away a digital code so you can have a full copy of this. One of you can, because whoever puts that code in first gets this entire series, Superman the Animated Series, which is just a phenomenal series. It came out last week, and I've been watching it all for the past week and a half. I've been watching all of it and regurgitating the show. Unfortunately, I've had some memory lapses this week, so I had to rewatch the last two discs, again. But that's okay. I was making notes along the way because I didn't want to forget stuff, and I just wanted to give you an overall review of this amazing series. First of all, the actual set, the physical copy, I love the box. It kind of matches a little bit in size of what the Batman animated series was when they re-released that and Batman Beyond not too long ago. And so it's got a nice sleeve on it. Obviously, you got the Blu-ray in here, and it's broken into 6 discs. So you got all 6 discs here. And then you got a great booklet that has a list of all the episodes from all the seasons and what discs they're on, featuring the amazing artwork and animation from the show. And then obviously we have a digital code. So boom, there you go. First person to put that digital code in also will be an owner of this entire series in digital format. And if you get the code and you actually win it, let me know down in the comments who you are and what your review is of this series and then what your favorite episodes are. So good luck, because I'm sure a lot of you are going to fight over that. So first person get it in there. So hurry, hurry, hurry. But this show is, to me, did for Superman what the Batman animated series did for Batman. Now, obviously, the Superman movie, Christopher Reeve, that's the linchpin to me. That's the foundation for generations of Superman fans. Probably 2 or 3 generations of Superman fans. Although there was the great George Reeves stuff and the radio show, and there's been a lot of Superman outside of comics over the years that have been tremendous and fantastic versions of the character. The Superboy show, in the late 80s, early 90s, that era. You had the Lois and Clark show in the 90s, Smallville, which I have the box set of, and that is one of my favorite versions of Superman and Clark Kent of all time, and Ma and Pa Kent. I just love everyone on that show, and they have a great Lois on that show as well. And but with the animated series, this to me, when people talk about the Batman animated series and they hold it at such high regard and say it's one of the best interpretations of the character, I also feel that way with this Superman show. I think this show did a lot of things with Superman that kind of grounded him in some ways, built a great supporting cast for him, like the Batman show did, had great cameos from other characters, great crossover stuff. The stuff with Batman, the world's finest 3-parter was great, bringing in Supergirl, Green Lantern. They had Kyle Rayner on the show, and they had or I think it was Wally West. They did Wally West Flash, the Flash, and they've had a lot of great cameos and great characters appear on the show over the course of its 3 amazing seasons. And so if you've never seen this show before, I don't know. I can't recommend it enough. I've done an episode of Seek and R when they announced this, and I talked highly about the show then and the cast and everyone who's on it. Clancy Brown, probably the best Lex Luthor, next to Michael Rosenbaum of all time. I know there are Gene Hackman fans out there and other fans of different versions of Lex, but man, this version is so good. Clancy Brown, he's just so fantastic. He's great on the show, as is everybody. Dana Delaney is one of my favorite Loises also. When I think of this show, it brings out my love for the character, and it brings out why I fell in love with him again and again and again, probably at different stages of my life, even after, post aneurysm, when I rewatched this show and when I rewatched Smallville, all of that. I think Smallville was on its last season right after my aneurysm, so I got to watch the show end, but I got to rewatch the first, 9 seasons leading up to the finale, and it's just, that character has always been a part of my life. And much like Green Lantern and Batman and a lot of the DC characters, Superman has been there, and I think it started with Christopher Reeve, and that really set an example for me about who the character is. And of course, there's different interpretations of the character. We could talk about that. Zack Snyder, there's many different versions of Superman, but to me, none of them are really wrong. I think at one point in my life, I did feel oh, that's not Superman, or that's not Clark Kent, and I get very protective of the version of the character that I love. And I feel like as I've aged, I understand, that that's not what's important. What's important is that each new version brings in new fans of the character, and that's how characters live for 80 plus years, like Superman has. And so, if you've never experienced this show, or if you haven't, go check it out, please. And if you have, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it down below, because I'm going to go over just a couple of my favorite episodes from each season. And luckily I have this as my cheat sheet, and then I have a couple notes off screen here that are lit a little better than this thing is, because I have it on white paper. So for the first season, obviously the origin story, the last son of Krypton, they did a 3-part story, like a 3-episode, beginning of the season. I think when they showed it on TV, it was a movie. They showed all 3 at one time, much like they did with World's Finest. And then when they released it as its own DVD at one point as well. And so this is the origin. And in this Blu-ray collection, you actually get a commentary on that first episode from some of the creators of the show, which is great. Like hearing them talk about the kind of the leap they made with this and the changes they made to the character, because like I said earlier, the way they kind of grounded Superman, they weakened him a little bit at first, because they were like, well, this is early years of Superman, him coming to Metropolis, we're getting his origin, all that stuff, so we want him to have more weaknesses than just kryptonite, and I guess magic to an extent, so whenever characters that are magic based show up, because there's like a great Dr. Fate episode, the magic has an effect on Superman, obviously, and then Superman to kryptonite has a weakness to that. But then they also added things like electricity. So when they brought in the character of Livewire, they had electricity be something that can hurt Superman, and obviously he could be punched. His brains could be punched in by characters like Darkseid and Calabac and stuff. So that's what I love about this show, was that they didn't make him just a god. He was still a man first and foremost, a Superman. But then there was times in the season where he was outshined by characters like Dan Turpin. There's that great line where he says in the episode where Dan Turpin is killed by Darkseid, and Earth is invaded by by Apocalypse, and then the new gods show up to aid Earth at the end. Dan Turpin still died in that battle, and Superman says, the world wanted a Superman, but what they really needed was a brave one, because Dan Turpin stood up and against the oppressing nature of Apocalypse and Darkseid. He stood up against them and said, no, we're not going to yield. We're Earth. We're not going to bow to you. We're going to fight back. And Darkseid was like, this is suicide. I'll kill all of you. And Dan Turpin's like, I don't care. And he beats up like a parademon and takes an axe and throws it and frees Superman. And Superman gets out and gets to fight back and fight with humanity. And I love that, because I think a lot of times in shows, like in comic book interpretations, people are just victims. They just treat people like victims, and they're just there to be saved, essentially. And I like movies like Spider-Man 2, where they had the scene where everyone brings Spider-Man back, and they give him his mask back, and they're like, don't worry, we won't tell anyone, we'll keep your secret, because of your sacrifice and what you're doing. You try to see, you saved us. And then in this, with everyone rising up against Apocalypse, when Superman was beaten and he was captured, and there was no Superman to help them fight, Dan Turpin still stood up and said, no, we're not bowing down. Maggie Sawyer was in the hospital. She was wounded earlier in the episode. And he was like, for Maggie, for, our loved ones, for the people of Metropolis, for the people of the world, I'm going to stand up. There's no Superman, fine. I'm just a regular guy, and I'm going to stand up and fight. And I like that the show oftentimes portrayed people as the heart, of the show sometimes, and giving even more of a reason why you understand why Superman saves humanity, because you're like, well, there is good in people, and he brings it out in them. And that is something that is rarely captured when they, translate these characters to screen. But when it's done, and we all recognize when it's done, it's a big moment. And so this show did a great job at that. So Last Son of Krypton, the early episodes, those were fantastic. Then we also had episodes with Brainiac. Anytime Brainiac showed up, I really liked the interpretation of him in this show. I loved Metallo. I thought he was great in this show. The first season also had the main man. They had Lobo show up, and that was awesome. Him being a bounty hunter, showing up to capture the last Kryptonian, and turns out he's like the last Zarnian, and so he gets captured as well by the same people who hired him to capture Superman, and then him and Superman have to team up and fight back. So a lot of great stuff in there. You had the Speed Demons episode where he races the Flash, which is fantastic, against Weather Wizard. So those were all in the first season. Second season, Mxyzptlk. I loved this episode where Superman, as Clark Kent too, like, this imp from the fifth dimension, Mxyzptlk, shows up and starts taunting Clark Kent and Superman and is like, you're the most powerful being I think in this universe, and I'm the most powerful being in my universe. So I'm coming here to mess with you, and the way you beat me, I'll make you a deal. If you can get me to say my name backwards, then you win, and I'll go back to my universe, and then in 3 months I'll come back and challenge you again. So the show literally takes place over the course of like a year and a half, where Mxyzptlk keeps showing up, and Superman keeps outsmarting him and getting him to say his name backwards. And I loved it. So it's an episode where Superman's not throwing punches to defeat the enemy. He's being, Clark Kent. He's using common sense, and he's using kind of duping, Mxyzptlk. And I thought it was very clever, very awesome. And this is another episode that has a great commentary track on it. But then obviously in season 2, you got the Toyman episode with action figures, which I really liked. And you got the Batman crossover, World's Finest, which is just amazing. I mean, I can't think of, I always wanted just like make that live action and it will be perfect. Everyone will love it. Maybe change a few things or add a few things to, lengthen it a bit. But this is just a great version of a first meeting between Batman and Superman, where Superman, Batman shows up in Metropolis tracking down, he's looking for Joker. Joker stole some rare jade, jewel thing. And it turns out that it's not jade, it's kryptonite. And he's planning to team up with Lex Luthor. Joker is with Harley Quinn and Mercy. They're all 4 teaming up to take down Superman. And then Batman, of course, intervenes. And when he shows up, he's like, I'm looking for Joker. And Superman's like, he's questioning people. And Superman's like, I'm not going to have vigilantism in my town. And he uses his X-ray vision to see through Batman's mask and sees that it's Bruce Wayne. He's like, Bruce Wayne? And, Batman's like, you're peeking. And then he goes, well, Joker stole some jade, but I know it's not jade. And he pulls out the kryptonite and, it weakens Superman. And he's like, yeah, it doesn't take much to hurt you, does it? He's like, well, the Joker has like 50 pounds of this stuff. And he's like, I thought you'd want to know. And he throws throws it into a glass of champagne or something. And Superman is like, then it kind of dulls the effects of it. And Superman's like, okay. And he looks up and, Batman's gone. So then when Superman goes back to his apartment, Lois calls him and she's like, hey, I have a date with Bruce Wayne tomorrow. And he's like, ugh, Bruce Wayne? And she's like, yeah, he's great, isn't he? And he's like, yeah, I don't know. I don't like that guy. And then as he's talking to Lois, he looks across the, like the city, like he's looking out his window and he sees the skyline of Metropolis. And then he's like, what's that? And then he looks down at his cape and there's like a little bat tracer, and he grabs it and smashes it and he goes, no way. And he's like, looks across and he sees Batman like, 40 blocks away with binoculars. And he tracked Superman back to his apartment and found out that he was Clark Kent. And I was like, that's so great. It's so good. And then the two of them reluctantly team up through the rest of the episode to take down Lex Luthor and the Joker and Harley Quinn and Mercy Graves. So, just a great episode, great 3 episodes. And again, when it released on TV, it was like a full movie. And they released it as its own movie on DVD at 1.2, but you get it here, which is fantastic. And then we have season 3, which is it has some of my favorite episodes in the show, including Warrior Queen, which I really love. It has Queen Maxima from the comic books. At one point in the comics, she showed up like in the John Byrne, around that time, or Dan Jurgens era, before Superman died. And she showed up and I think she joined the Justice League, and she's basically looking for a mate. She's from a planet of warrior women who go out and find warrior men to mate with, and so she comes to Earth and sees Superman. So she's just fighting Superman, going like, all right, like kiss me now. She's like punching him and she's like, you can take a punch, like you're a worthy mate, let's make out and become a couple and be my queen. And he's like, no, what? And of course Lois is there and she's like, what's going on here? So I thought that was great. I love Maxima as a character. I think she's fantastic. And so this episode is one that stands out to me. And when I rewatched it, I was like, I forgot how much I love this episode. So Warrior Queen, it's like the 2nd episode on the 5th disc. Really, really good episode. Then there's Little Girl Lost, which speaking of awesome female characters, this introduces Supergirl, Kara Zor-El. And this is a great introduction to the character where she comes in, because in the 90s in the comics, it was all over the place with Supergirl. She was like a clone from another world who was like a mutant, and there's all these like different things, like different versions of her. So this one is, Kara Zor-El from a nearby planet of Krypton, and she, kind of cousin to Superman, and she is sent, just like Clark was, out into the universe, but she was a teenager, and she was meant to, keep an eye, I guess, on Clark. So when she lands on Earth, she's a full-grown teenager, and Superman has to like help her, and he brings her to Ma and Pa Kent to live and learn about, you know, secret identities and life on Earth and stuff. She meets Jimmy Olsen and kind of, you know, they kind of go on, I think they end up going on a date or flirting with each other, so Jimmy has a big crush on her, obviously. So I thought this was great. It was a great you know, new version of the Supergirl character, because there's been so many in the comics that have been like all over the place. Like if you go back to the earlier appearances of her, they get really weird, like different versions of the character. So for me, I really liked this version. I liked it. They kept a very simple story. Obviously, that's what this show did, was it simplified a lot of things. But it had a lot of heart in these 2 episodes. So I really love that. And then this, you know, the last episode on this disc, disc 5, is Nighttime. And this is also one of my favorite episodes, where Superman dresses up as Batman. So Batman goes missing, and Superman goes to Gotham to look for him, and he runs into Robin, and he's like, where is, you know, Batman? And he's like, I don't know, he's been missing for a couple weeks. Bruce Wayne just got up, he was at his office, got up and walked away and disappeared, and we haven't seen him since. So Superman says, all right, well, let's go talk to the police. And he's like, well, we can't go without Batman, because then people will really know Batman is truly missing. So Superman dresses up as Batman, and him and Robin go talk to Commissioner Gordon, and then they go around taking down villains, even Bane. And Bane has got like, you know, he's twice as juiced as he normally is, and he's punching Batman, you know, and thinks he knocks him out. But then Batman stands up, breaks the bond that the Riddler put him in, and just beats the living crap out of Bane, and then takes the plug, because normally Batman, when he fights Bane, he's aiming batarangs, he's trying to get that plug out of the back of Bane's head to weaken Bane down enough so that they could physically fight each other. So Batman has to be smart and tactical, and, you know, before he gets to the physicality part, or the, you know, the fighting part. Superman doesn't. Superman just beats the crap out of Bane and then takes the plug out. It's so awesome. So this episode's fantastic, and then you find out what happened to Bruce, and I don't want to spoil it if you haven't seen the episode, but it's really, really good. And in the final disc, there's a lot of cool stuff. They bring in the Legion of Superheroes in an episode called The New Kids in Town, which is just so good. I'm so glad they did that and included those characters in this. They bring back, you know, the Mxyzptlk. They have a Green Lantern episode with Kyle Rayner in this one. They have an episode fully focused on Superman's pal, which is really cool. And then they have the Demon Reborn. That's another Batman episode where Ra's al Ghul tries to transfer his mind into Superman's body. Really great episode, and very fantastic. And then the finale of the show, Legacy, which is just really good, where you know, Darkseid comes back, Apocalypse again after the death of Dan Turpin is coming to invade Earth, and Superman is not having it, and he ends up going back to Apocalypse to save Supergirl, who's been kidnapped by you know, Calabac and Darkseid, and takes the fight to Darkseid. And this is a brutal fight. Superman almost loses this fight. He takes Calabac down, who he used to have problems with earlier in the show, but now as Superman, again, as the show's progressing, he's getting stronger, he's been around the sun more. He takes down Calabac no problem. But when he fights Darkseid, Darkseid almost kills Superman. But Superman at the last second grabs Darkseid's head as the Omega beams are coming out and reflects the beams right back into Darkseid's skull and almost kills him. And so when Darkseid collapses, Superman grabs him, picks him up, and throws him down at the mercy of all these slaves on Apocalypse. And he says, you're free. All of you are free. And here's your warlord. You know, Darkseid, he's done. Just let him be, pick him apart, whatever you want. You know, he is like, his fate is in your hands now, which is not very Superman-ish. But I think ultimately Superman was saying, like, you're free though. Like, you know, you don't have to be under his heel anymore. And all of these people that were, you know, enslaved by Darkseid, they go over to him and they're like, you know, Master, please let us help you. And they pick him up and they carry him away, and they're like, we'll bring you somewhere to heal. And Superman is shocked by this, and he's like, what is going on? And you know, Supergirl shows up and is like, let it go. You know, like, you know, you beat him, and that's you know, don't become a monster. Don't go after him and try to kill him before he can be healed. Then he'll win. You know, and you know, Dan Turpin never wanted you to be corrupted in this way, you know. So he's like, you know, that I guess that victory has to be for Dan. And so he's like, all right, Ciara, let's go home. And so the show ends on a very, really somber note, you know. And then after the show, they went back and did another series of Batman, another season of Batman, and then Batman Beyond. And then we finally got Justice League. And when that was coming out, we got Superman back, you know, and building the League. And it was just done so well. So if you haven't ever been a part of this universe, this animated universe of the 90s into the early 2000s featuring DC, It's so fantastic. And like the Batman show that had a lot of great characters that introduced, like Etrigan the Demon and Clarion the Witch Boy, like that show introduced a lot of cool characters from the greater DC universe, Deadman, stuff like that. In this one, we get, a lot of great characters. We got Flash, Green Lantern, you got crossovers with Batman, like I said. There's just been a lot. Dr. Fate was in the show, like so many great things. So if you've never seen the show before, I've rambled long enough about it, hopefully, and hopefully convinced you to check out Superman, the animated series, out there right now on Blu-ray and digital combo pack that you can get. And I think it retails for around $44.99, $50 range, somewhere around there, depending on where you get it from. So it's a great deal. It's hours and hours of amazing entertainment. And if you're a Superman fan, it's got to be a part of your collection. I'm telling you, if you don't already own it, I'm surprised. As a Superman fan, you got to get it. You got to add it to your collection. So thank you, as always, for watching this show. And from here moving forward, I will talk about Superman from time to time. Obviously, that'll be the focus of this show. Seek and R is kind of like a Batman/DC show, and that will still go on from time to time. But from here, I will just try to share Superman stuff. And the main reason is because I came up with this idea for a show, and I want to hear your feedback on it. So really, the future of the show will come from your feedback and what you think. For a while now, I've wanted to change somewhat of what I do on here. I feel like, I talk comics and I'm kind of known for that. And I understand I'm building an audience for people who appreciate and like that stuff. But there is something in me too that wants to talk about other things, maybe some real world things as well. And I don't want to get too political or do anything like that, but I wanted to just find these interesting pieces of news out there, whether it's focusing on a person going through something, landlords evicting people, things like this, and approach it from a Superman standpoint and kind of take a real world story and discuss with you, or bring on a guest, or you in the comments and get your feedback, and then me respond to them, or do live streams or something. Like, I'm trying to think of how this is going to work, but I thought about talking about real world stories, taking a piece of journalism and saying, okay, this is how the clickbaity version of it is, but how would Clark Kent approach this? Like, the kind of the Clark Kent we know from the comics and stuff. How would he approach, this type of story and writing it? Would he do the clickbaity thing, or whatever, or would Perry White obviously have control over that? I'd love to approach things like that, or also look at this a real world issue and say, how do you think Superman would handle this? And get your, make it very interactive, get your feedback on it. So this is an idea I'm brainstorming now. If you think you're into something like that, because it's still comic related, but it also will have a little bit of real world. And like I said, I don't want to get too political. I'm not here to ruffle feathers or piss anyone off or anything like that. And I'm not here to be a fence rider either. I just thought that would be a cool, interesting way to do something Superman related and do something that I want to do, which is talk about people. Like, I very much love talking to people. If you ever see me at any of my jobs I've ever had, people is, why I got back into retail, why I work in sales and stuff. I like talking to people. I just really do. And obviously that's why I do YouTube and stuff. I think there's so many people out there that have amazing stories, heartbreaking stories, uplifting stories. And I thought maybe we could bring some of those to this channel through the lens of a character like Superman. So if that's something you are interested in, let me know down in the comments below. And if you won the free digital copy of this whole series, let me know your review and your favorite episodes down below in the comments. And if you didn't win and you've seen the show and you like it, let me know your thoughts down below as well. Thanks so much for watching. Like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And I'll see you up, and away. Peace.